Hey everyone, Aiden here, and I just recently finished playing Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. I absolutely adore this game. I will admit I was a bit anxious leading up to release. It seemed like a shorter game, it seemed more linear, and it seemed like it was lacking that usual polish that the FromSoft games have. Thankfully, all my fears were destroyed. They died twice, and we're left with a really good game here. I have a lot to say about it, so I hope you guys will buckle in and join me for this review/discussion type video where we dissect my thoughts on Sekiro and I review yet another non-Nintendo game on my Nintendo gaming channel. Wait a minute. So the story takes place in Ashina, a war-torn country at the height of the Sengoku period in Japan. The main focus is on Kuro, a prince with divine lineage, and his shinobi bodyguard Sekiro. To summarize, evil forces want Kuro's blood as it grants immortality, but Sekiro must not allow him to be harmed as it is part of his shinobi code. In protecting him, he loses an arm but gains a weaponized prosthetic arm from an elderly shinobi. From here, the story is about saving Kuro, seeking revenge, and ultimately severing immortality. As one might expect from a FromSoft game, the story is filled with twists and turns and has an overall dark and oppressive atmosphere. The world on display is gorgeous, and the graphics capture the haunting vibe of this world exceptionally well. Where Dark Souls and Bloodborne thrived in being fictitious, Sekiro is more grounded in realism. That's not to say that Sekiro is without its fair share of oddities. There are many bizarre scenarios you'll find yourself in, and many imaginative, wild bosses that you'll bump into. It's just that, for the most part, and being how Sekiro's world is inspired by a true-to-life time period, you'll find that a large portion of the events in this game could have actually happened, and a large portion of the bosses you'll fight are simply humanoid foes. I'll admit that leading up to release, I was concerned about this game. From pre-release footage, it seemed linear to me, and like it didn't capture the usual soul of the From Software games. I'm ecstatic to have been proven wrong though, as Sekiro absolutely feels welcome here in addition to feeling like a natural evolution of the From Software games preceding it. There's a lot that's new here, but let's quickly talk about what's similar because like it did for me, it may just shock you. So a good chunk of the story is actually told to the player through world building. Simply reading into the descriptions of items and combat techniques will provide you with a fair bit of background into the world. Similarly, Ashina is filled with a bunch of interesting and quirky characters that can offer insight by being spoken to and presenting side quests. Also keeping in line with tradition is the deep interconnected world. Yes, Sekiro is absolutely more linear, but there comes a point in the game where it opens up so much, and you basically have the option to go anywhere you'd like. Those moments where you'll be exploring an area and you stumble upon a path to a previous area are absolutely still here, and it is just so satisfying seeing the scale of this world unfold. You can stand on top of a mountain looking around and see almost every area in the game. That classic progression of slowly but steadily making it ahead and opening up shortcuts is still here, and as you slowly trek through this brutal world, just like with bonfires and lanterns, you'll find area markers, this time in the form of sculptors' idols. These will allow you to rest, improve Sekiro, fast travel to other areas, and can be returned to with the use of the homeward idol. The quick use menu is back for assigning all sorts of helpful healing items and buffs, and you'll collect a currency called Sen to purchase most of these items. Bosses for the most part are brutal and can make you feel absolutely hopeless until you train enough to confidently smite them. You could mistake everything I'm describing now as common tropes of a Souls game, but these are still present here in Sekiro. How does it differ though? Well, it's mainly in its combat systems, movement, and how it lets you interact with the world. But right off the bat, Sekiro is a much more static game. For one, character customization is gone. You play through the whole game as Sekiro and only Sekiro, so you better get used to his ugly mug. And likewise, the RPG elements have also been scrapped, so class choice is gone. In past Soulsborne games, Souls and Blood Echoes were used to upgrade various character stats, but here the only two stats remaining are Vitality and Attack Power with the addition of Posture. Vitality and Posture can be increased with collectible items known as Prayer Beads, and Attack can be raised with Boss Memories, which are received when a main boss is defeated. You can still get skill points by defeating your enemies, but this time you can use them to increase various types of arts on a skill tree. And the reason why these RPG elements are gone is because Sekiro has a very specific style of fighting, so the multiple options aren't really needed. This really isn't all bad though, because this style of fighting happens to be extremely fleshed out and allows for some great player choice in and of itself. You and your enemy now have a posture meter, and the priority is put on filling this meter up by clashing swords, blocking attacks, and dealing damage. When the meter is filled up, a death blow can be performed, which will knock off a health point. Standard enemies can be killed pretty quickly, but the main bosses can have multiple health points, making for some very long fights. It's very important to fill up their meter, but it's also crucial to watch your own and make sure it doesn't get too full. This can be done by simply backing off and blocking. Posture and vitality are very closely knit, as a lower vitality means more posture damage for both you and your enemy. So if you see that your vitality is low, it's usually a good idea to step back and use your healing gourd, which is essentially this game's Estus flask. Enemies have a few deadly attacks at their disposal that are notated by a red Japanese character. When this appears, you can either get the heck out of the way, or you have the option of performing counters. You can jump on top of enemies' weapons, or my personal favorite is the Mikiri counter, where you can actually yank an enemy forward when they perform a thrust. It takes off a fair bit of posture and allows for a few good hits. And then of course there's the inclusion of the prosthetic tools. Found throughout the world are various weapons that the dilapidated temple monk can fit to your prosthetic arm. Their uses are extremely varied, and they can add another layer to the already complex combat. For example, you can stealth kill an entire crowd one by one with the shurikens, or you can smash an enemy's shield with the axe. Maybe you're having trouble with a fast-paced boss, so you decide to use the firecrackers to distract them and attack. You guys get the point. They're very crafty sub-weapons, allowing for more combat options. And by collecting enough upgrade materials from the world and having the required sen, they can be made even stronger. But it is worth mentioning these tools use spirit emblems when used, and these can be bought at any of the sculptor's idols across the world. I personally didn't have too much trouble keeping a pretty hefty stock of these around. The best part about all of this is that it doesn't end here. In the world, you'll find different esoteric texts that will essentially teach Sekiro a new school of fighting. You have the combat arts, which can only be equipped one at a time and grant Sekiro some pretty nasty special attacks. There's the shinobi martial arts, which are related closely to different shinobi skills and the prosthetic tools. Latent skills are, well, latent, in the sense that they just happen naturally without having to do anything. And then there's the ninjutsu techniques, which are all related to stealth. And that's right, I just said stealth. Soulsborne games have dabbled in this idea before, but not to the extent that Sekiro does. One of my absolute favorite parts about Sekiro is how much freedom of mobility it grants the player. In general, and this goes for the combat too, Sekiro feels like a much more athletic experience. You can crouch around sneaking up behind enemies for a death blow, or you can hang off ledges and drop on your enemies. You can sidle along walls and study your enemies before attacking, or sprint away with unlimited stamina if you don't feel like fighting. And this is a legitimate tactic I used for killing a lot of the bosses. Try to take off a hit without being seen in order to have the time that you're struggling with the boss, and then fight through the rest. Heck, simply being able to jump in the game expands the reaches of what you can do here. And then of course, Sekiro introduces the world of Soulsborne to the grappling hook. Allowing you to grapple up to various tree branches and rooftops, this thing is amazing. It increases your freedom by tenfold and adds a major sense of verticality to the level design and exploration. Now you can either walk across the main routes, or you can grapple up to a rooftop and go off the beaten path. The grapple mechanic goes hand in hand with stealth too, as being able to reach these higher vantage points opens up the opportunity for plenty different types of kills. Grappling around isn't exclusive to just exploration though, because they actually went ahead and implemented it into some of the boss fights. There will be moments in fights where if you react quickly enough, you can grapple over to the boss and get some awesome hits upon landing. Anyone who has played a FromSoft game before knows about the typical progression of find save point closest to the boss, run to the boss, die, rinse and repeat. Unfortunately, this is still here, but thanks to movement options, the time you'll spend doing this is greatly minimized. My initial impression on Sekiro is that it was the hardest From Software game to date. I'm now on New Game Plus, speeding through areas and bosses, and I believe it to be the most accessible. Why? I took the time to slow down and learn the mechanics. You can dodge away from boss attacks, but the game doesn't want you to, and it feels better when you aren't. Sekiro is a game about confrontation, and From Software wants the combat to consist of clashing swords, blocking, countering, and quick movement. Keep your sword up and pay attention how enemies move. Rather than dodging away from scary attacks, embrace them and learn how to counter them. And hey, if you fail, Sekiro dies twice, not once, not thrice. You always have the chance to correct any mistakes you made in combat thanks to the ability to resurrect. And I know it saved me plenty of times. And say you happen to expend a life. If you then successfully take one from the boss, there's always the chance that you gain another health point to die again. So maybe Sekiro does die thrice. I just love this game so much. It blends what I'm used to from the Soulsborne games with some extremely fresh and welcome innovations. Combat and movement-wise, I can confidently say this is my favorite From Software game. In any given combat situation, the possibilities of how you can go about solving it are quite frankly endless. And it's all thanks to the beautiful combination of a more in-your-face fighting style, prosthetic tools, and a huge sense of movement and mobility. I can only hope that we get to see these new innovative ideas applied to the prior Soulsborne series, because seeing them in a more rich, dark, fantasy-driven world would make me hyped beyond end. And speaking of those other games, what the heck is FromSoft gonna do next? Steampunk Souls? Outer Space Souls? You heard it here first, folks. Regardless of that, Sekiro is where it's at right now. This is the most engaged I've been with a video game since maybe, like, Persona 5, and we all know how great of a game that is, so you guys know where I'm coming from. You owe it to yourself to play Sekiro. It is so good. Just go out to the store and buy it on your console or on digital, whatever the heck you guys do these days, and please, just play this game. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please subscribe to the channel or leave a like. It helps out a lot. And what did you guys think of Sekiro if you've played it? Leave me a comment down below. I would love to talk with you guys. Until the next video, I've been Aiden, and I hope you guys have a great one. Bye.